Without skills, it's really hard for your dog to be well behaved. One of the most loving things we can do for our dogs is teach them the skills they need to thrive in our world. Welcome to part 4 of my Skill versus Behavior series. If you missed any of the previous episodes, they'll all be linked below. In this episode, we'll explore crucial skills like adaptability, impulse control, resilience, and more. Using both natural and cued behavior, we can help our dogs develop these important abilities. Without focusing on improving these skills, your dog will continue to struggle to listen, keeping you frustrated, embarrassed, and worried. Hi, I'm Amy from How to Speak Dog. I'm a canine behavior consultant and trainer and founder of How to Speak Dog, where I help families living with dogs who struggle to listen learn how to teach their dogs the canine life skills that will improve their dog's listening skills and stop all those feelings of embarrassment, overwhelm, frustration, and worry caused by their dog's bad behavior, without spending hours and hours training or using methods that just don't solve the everyday problems pet parents face today. Since 1983, I have transformed thousands of foster dogs, client dogs, and my own dogs with bad behavior into dogs who listen and respond reliably, no matter where they are or who is there. I'm here to help you transform your dog's behavior too. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and please be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the new free training episodes I put out here every Tuesday. Let's get started. I like to think of skills as the glue that holds our dogs together, literally. It helps them to know which behavior is appropriate in which scenario and how to make good choices. Some dogs have naturally developed these skills more than others, depending on their life and environmental experiences up to this point. Some of us, even though we may not be aware of it, are better at encouraging our dogs to improve these skills. Either way, the good news is all of these skills can be taught and improved. In this episode, I'm going to specifically be talking about confinement, crates and alone time, handling, independent play, impulse control, socialization and novelty, resilience, adaptability, and relaxation, and calm and polite interactions. I'll get into why they're important and how they can help your dog be the rockstar rover that you dream of. There's long been a debate about whether or not crates are good or bad, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. Crates are just one tool that you can use to help your dog learn to spend time alone without being destructive or anxious. Dogs are born only concerned with their safety, survival, and how to get their needs met, which makes them naturally extremely observant of their surroundings, including us. They are constantly assessing if everything is as it should be so that they can relax. And I don't mean in a hyper-vigilant way for most dogs, but some do have that problem of being overly sensitive to a lot of things. Just in general, dogs are always observing their surroundings, sometimes even when we think they're asleep. Being able to be confined and stay calm is one way to help a dog like that, who is naturally nervous or anxious. Only having a small area, like one room or a crate to worry about at a time, lessens the pressure they feel to keep things at a level that they can handle. When they feel too much pressure, it can manifest in excessive barking and destructive behavior. It's also beneficial for puppies to be confined until they have the skills to make good choices and handle the environment. I often see clients bring home a new puppy and right away give them the run of the entire house. Why is that bad, you ask? Because the puppy isn't ready to handle all of that space and everything that comes with it yet. It can be overwhelming and even scary to them. This also helps you to limit the areas that you have to check and watch for anything the dog or puppy has done or could get into that would be harmful. My sister once had a dog who was very anxious and would get into everything at night while the family slept. The dog wasn't able to settle and rest until they confined her to their laundry room with everything she would need. It was just too much for her to be observing the whole house all night all alone. Once they took that responsibility that she felt away from her, then she could relax. Even though we all know she didn't really have that responsibility, she thought she did. This is very common in herding breeds and guardian breeds whose job is to observe and protect. A dog who can comfortably and calmly be confined alone is easier to travel with and safer in case of a disaster. Many disaster shelters will not take pets that can't stay in a crate. Creating a safe space for your dog with or without a crate gives your dog an easy place to go to whenever they feel uncomfortable or just want to rest and relax without worry. That's why a lot of dogs choose their crates over other options like furniture and the floor. If a crate or any confinement has been introduced and used properly from the start, it gives the dog that safe space that they crave. A dog who is comfortable with being handled will live a much less stressful life. Going to the vet or the groomer and being poked and prodded and moved will be much less stressful if they're used to all of that beforehand. If our dogs are uncomfortable with the vet or the groomer, we often think exposing them to these things only when needed is best. The truth is that it makes it more stressful when these things actually do happen. Even if you don't regularly take your dog to a groomer or vet, someday there may be an emergency, and that in itself will be stressful enough without adding experiences they aren't comfortable with yet. Like almost everything we do with our dogs, if we get them used to it in a safe and calm environment before they have to deal with it in real life, it's much easier on them and us because we aren't worried or embarrassed about their defensive behavior. So what's the best way to do this? Handle your dog as much as possible all the time, intentionally. When you're sitting together and petting your dog, don't just pet them. Put your fingers in their ears, in their mouth. Play with their feet. Hold their feet for brief seconds. When you're petting, pet all the way down to the end of their tail and hold their tail for a few seconds. Don't do any of this forcefully or roughly, but very nonchalantly and gently. Sometimes we avoid touching or handling our dogs because of the way they react. If we continue to avoid it, it will never improve. So the answer is to go at a pace your dog is comfortable with. The more they experience handling in a good way, in a safe and calm environment, the more willing they will be to tolerate it, even if they don't love it. If your dog resists at all, stop or move to a different area and try that area again later. You definitely want to take cues from your dog's body language and vocalizations so that they get the message that you understand them and understand that they're uncomfortable and you're not going to push them. Respecting your dog's space is a great way to show them that you understand and respect their feelings. If your dog is very resistant and you're not sure how to proceed or are having trouble understanding your dog's responses, seek professional help. I started this with Cricket, my Jack Russell, when she was very young. It resulted in her trusting me so much that to trim her nails, all I had to do was lay her on her back on my lap, and she wouldn't move or protest at all. I still don't think she enjoyed having her nails trimmed. Most dogs don't, but I handled her so much in the right way that it became tolerable for her. This skill is more beneficial to us than our dogs, but it's still good for them. Learning to play independently and entertain themselves makes it so that they can spend time without interacting with you. This frees you up for other things and helps to remove any feelings of stress you may have if your dog is constantly seeking your attention. For your dog, it fosters independence and confidence. It gives them a choice of what to do and when to do it, and gives them an outlet for energy that they don't have to rely on you for completely. The problem is when we don't give them the things they like to do independently, like making sure the toys are ones that they like and want to interact with. I've had many clients say they have an entire basket of toys and they don't play with any of them. If they don't play with them, they may not like them or they may not know how. Maybe they first need to be shown how to use the toys. Lots of rescue dogs experience this. To start to figure out what they like, we have to pay attention to what types of activities our dogs do naturally that they enjoy. Do they enjoy shredding things, or solving puzzles, or something else? From there, we can get creative and figure out how to meet those desires. There are so many options for toys on the market, it's crazy, and there are lots of DIY options too. Minnie loves her food puzzles. She figures them out so quickly though, she keeps me on my toes. I recently posted an idea I had on Facebook. I took a tissue box, the long kind, and I filled it with wads of paper from my recycle pile. Then I sprinkled treats and kibble inside, and she has to put her head in to find it. I realized this is not one she can figure out quickly because it's different every time, because the food falls in different places depending on where she puts her head and her nose. And additionally, she gets to use her nose, which is a benefit for any dog. Impulse control is a skill that's useful in a lot of scenarios in our everyday life with our dogs. Dogs are definitely not born with impulse control. Think about a litter of puppies trying to nurse. They climb over each other, they push each other out of the way, and not gently either. They may learn to wait their turn only if mom intervenes or if another puppy gets more aggressive. But by the time they come to live with us, they haven't had a lot of learning in impulse control. Think about a dog who countersurfs. I said in part 2, when we talked about natural behavior, that countersurfing is just a dog trying to get to what it wants. It doesn't know the counter is a surface that they shouldn't be allowed on. But they also need to learn impulse control. If we give them access to anything they want, anytime they want it, without limits, they will never learn impulse control. Not only can this result in some nuisance behaviors for us, like countersurfing and jumping, it can also be dangerous, like if they run out the door into a busy street, or if they push past you when you're trying to go through a doorway and either injure you or knock you down. Teaching our dogs things like wait and be calm until they're told it's okay to go through a door or get out of their crate or get out of the car or whatever, teaches them to control their impulse to run out with no regard for their safety or anything else. Allowing your dog to run out of their crate, the car, or your house, or dive into their food as soon as you put it down is a recipe for disaster. A dog who does any of those things in high state of arousal, whether it be in excitement or anxiety, is doomed to get themselves into trouble. Improving your dog's impulse control not only helps them to live a calmer existence, it provides you peace of mind that you no longer have to worry about what they're into or if they're going to put themselves into danger. Back when I was fostering dogs, at one point I had about 10 dogs and I needed to go out to my car to get something. Apparently when I went out, I didn't completely shut the outside door. My car was around the corner of the house, and when I came back around the corner, the door was open. When I realized it was open, I panicked, but I looked around and there were no dogs out and none had come to see me while I was out at the car. When I got to the open doorway, every single one of them was standing about 2 feet back, just watching me. I was so proud of them. That is one of my favorite memories ever, because most of those dogs were only with me for a short time. It was evidence that what I taught them worked, even if no one's looking. Socialization is another topic that has been hotly debated over the years. Some very well-known trainers recommend exposing your puppy to 100 people in the first 100 days they come to live with you. Veterinarians, on the other hand, generally recommend not exposing your puppy to much of anything outside of your home until they're fully vaccinated. But they all agree that a well-socialized dog is easier to live with and is a happier dog. So whose advice do you listen to? First, you need to understand exactly what socialization is and is not. What it is not is taking your dog as many places as you possibly can and letting every Harry, Sally, or Jane and their dog approach your dog without regard to how your dog is feeling about it or responding. What it is exposure to things that our dogs may find uncomfortable or have to live with in the future, in controlled, calm environments, in positive ways that result in pleasant experiences for our dogs. New things, or novelty, can be stressful to dogs, just by virtue of being new and something that they don't know about yet. But the more new things they are exposed to correctly, the more they can handle new things. Many good breeders are now intentionally exposing puppies to new things. Things like obstacle courses that they're allowed to explore, things to climb over and through, different sounds, and more, all before they go to their new homes with you. I'll link to an article about intentional socialization below. Just like I talked about with handling earlier, they're being exposed to being touched all over in a positive way in a controlled environment. Working dogs have to be socialized to the working conditions in which they will have to perform. Our family dogs don't need that level of exposure or socialization that working dogs do, but they still need some. Again, like when I talked about handling before, when a dog isn't used to being handled and suddenly has a stranger's hands all over them, it can be scary and overwhelming. So to keep our pups from having those bad experiences, we need to expose them to lots of things in controlled environments in positive ways over time. Doing this will help them learn that lots of things are no big deal, and if they do feel uncomfortable, we are there to help them. Resilience and adaptability are the sister skills to socialization and novelty. A resilient dog that adapts quickly and easily to new, scary, or stressful experiences is much easier for us to live with and is free to enjoy life much more than one who struggles with these skills. The problem is when we push our dogs too hard or too fast, and the experience becomes a painful or scary memory. For a dog to become more resilient and adaptable, it is crucial for us to be able to recognize and respond appropriately to their body language so that we can go at their pace. Body language recognition is one of the human skills I teach in my programs. I talked about it a little bit in another episode, which I'll link below. It's called Dog Body Language: How to Listen to Your Dog and Interpret What They're Trying to Say, because dogs do speak loudest with their bodies. Besides learning your dog's body language signals and what they mean, another way to increase resilience and adaptability is knowing when your dog has had enough and it's time to call it a day. Even though we want our dogs to do better and think they're capable, just like us, sometimes they have bad days. We need to be able to recognize that too and adjust accordingly. As I record this, Minnie's having a bad day. She's been extra barky and overly sensitive all day. I've given her extra attention, extra puzzles, and extra activities, which have helped some. But overall today, she's just restless. I attribute it to our recent trip to New Jersey, which involved a 20-hour drive each way, interaction with people she doesn't see often, including my grandkids, who are 2 and 4. While she did extremely well, and it was a huge improvement over our last trip up there, I know it was still stressful for her. Sometimes it can take a dog a few days to decompress after a stressful experience, even when it's good stress. So she's been okay for the last 2 days since we got home. But today she's struggling. I know she isn't regressing. She's just having a bad day like all of us do occasionally. As we do trips like this more and more, she will adapt more easily and bounce back more quickly. It is possible to teach your dog to relax on cue. It's a great skill to have when you're busy and can't pay attention to your dog, or when visitors come over, or even when you're out of the house, like going to the vet or at a dog-friendly cafe. Calm and polite behavior should be our goal with anything we teach our dogs to do with us or anyone else. Chaos is no fun for anyone. Even though our dogs may seem to enjoy it, if it becomes an all-the-time thing, it can be detrimental to their health and our sanity. The problem is when we're inconsistent with expecting and requiring calm behavior all the time. Dogs, as we know, are super observant, and you sort of have to keep them guessing while also being predictable. When dogs know what to expect, and there's the possibility that they may get a reward out of it, that is the secret sauce to having a dog who listens reliably. You have to be the mastermind at all times with your dog. You know what's best for them, and you know best how to navigate this world. The goal is to set everyone up for success, so you both have the freedom to live the calm, peaceful existence you desire. Traveling with Minnie is a great example of this. The first time we traveled with Minnie to New Jersey last fall, the only time she'd had a leash on was the few times we'd gone to the vet. That was a mistake I didn't think about at the time. But most of the time, she was off leash because she rarely left my side. Until one day, when we were in New Jersey at my stepson and his family's house, where they live on a very busy 50-mile-an-hour road, and she ran away from me and into the road. Suddenly, she had selective hearing, but luckily I was able to catch her before anything bad happened. I decided right then and there that she was going to be on a leash at all times from then on. She was not thrilled about that, and initially, I had to hold her and talk to her while someone else clipped the leash on. When we got home from that trip, I tried really hard to acclimate her to the leash, but she wasn't having any part of doing it the easy way. I continued to try, knowing this most recent trip was coming up soon, but she still refused, unless I was able to sneak it on her and not make a big deal out of it. So on this trip, I was concerned because we were going to be there for 9 days. The first time I leashed her at a rest stop on the way there, I was able to sneak. The second time, I was not so lucky. So I went to the door and faced her and offered her the leash. It took several tries, but eventually she let me put it on her without a big fuss. The key was, I didn't give up. I kept asking until she relented. Another great mastermind quality. You have to outweight the dog. If you don't have time at the moment, wait until you do have time to work on that skill. We had several more trials and errors throughout the trip, but ultimately, she allowed me to put her leash on easily most of the time. I could tell it still wasn't her favorite, but she learned she got to go where she wanted only if she let me calmly put the leash on. So let's recap. This is part 4 and the end of the Behavior versus Skill series. If you missed any of the others, they are all linked below and in each episode. In the first episode, I gave an overview of what skills and behaviors are and why it mattered that you knew that. In the second episode, I told you all about behavior that our dogs exhibit naturally, which can be a nuisance to us. I told you why they do a lot of the things that they do that annoy us, so that you could see from their perspective and realize it's never with malintent. It's only natural to them, and they don't know we think it's bad or that we don't like it. The third episode was about cued behavior, which is limitless in what you can teach your dog to do and put on cue. We also talked about some ways to use cued behavior to manage unwanted behaviors. And finally today, in this episode, we went over the 7 skills that you can teach your dog, and once mastered, will help your dog behave better. I also mentioned one human skill that is critical in being able to effectively teach your dog these life skills. At the beginning of the series, I said you need both skills and behavior to have a well-behaved dog. I still stand by that, and I hope I've demonstrated it clearly to you with this series. If not, please ask in the comments or message me directly. I'm here to help you get to know your dog from their perspective so you can both have the life you want and deserve. I invite you to check out my website, which is linked below. To get started right away, you can check out the mini version of my Power Principles framework, a 1-hour self-paced digital course called From Chaos to Calm. For a limited time, it's on sale for only $17. I'll link to it directly below too. As always, put your questions in the comments so I can answer them, and I hope you found this training useful today, and I would love to hear your feedback once you've tried some of these things. I put new training videos out every Tuesday, so if you don't want to miss any episodes, remember to hit like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. I've asked YouTube to recommend the next best video for you to watch, which you can get to right here. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you right back here next Tuesday for our next episode.